In my video where I overanalyzed GTA 6's first trailer, I very confidently stated that this woman was not Lucia. And now we've arrived at one of the most controversial clips in the entire trailer. I remember this being the subject of discussion right after the trailer dropped, with everyone debating whether or not this was Lucia. Now personally, I don't think this is Lucia. I'm locking in my vote. But ever since then, I can't get it out of my mind. What if I was wrong? What if the dozens of comments saying that it was Lucia end up being correct? So, I've decided to go back to the first trailer and overanalyze this woman, to come to the conclusion as to whether or not she is Lucia. But we aren't just going back to the original trailer. If you haven't been in the loop, a huge discovery was made recently. It turns out that Rockstar uploaded trailer 1 to Bilibili in its highest quality, and this went relatively unknown for over a year. Now, Bilibili is essentially China's own YouTube, and their compression algorithm is a lot less overbearing than YouTube's. So for this reason, we have a lot more detail in the Bilibili upload than we do in the YouTube upload. Now, before we can even look at this questionable woman, we need to get a good profile of Lucia's face, since that's basically all we have to go off of. I've pulled frames from the trailer that show off her face from different angles and sides. This one of Lucia in the car is probably the best one we have of her face straight on. And earlier in that same scene, I pulled this frame to get a good view of her right side. And then I pulled this frame from towards the end of the trailer to get a good view of the left side of her face. Now let's pull up this mystery woman. Now it's a little difficult to tell since we don't have a frame of Lucia in similar lighting, but I think they have different skin tones. The trailer woman's skin tone is lighter than Lucia's, even when comparing it to a scene Lucia's in that has brighter lighting. It also seems like the woman in the trailer has blue eyes and Lucia very clearly has brown eyes. But the biggest thing that we need to look at are the freckles and moles on both of them. Now, the one that most people draw attention to would be this mole on the left side of both Lucia and the woman's face. And for this woman, we can clearly see two moles on the right side of her face. One is below her right eye and the other is on her jawline. Now, looking at Lucia, she also has a mole below her eye, but it's not in the same spot. Now, I can already hear you saying, "It's pretty close." Okay, let's say that this mole is in the same place, but it's tough to call it since we only have a couple of frames to go off of. Well then, where is the mole on her jawline? This is more obviously not the same mole as this one, and I would even say that this looks more like a freckle below Lucia's eye than a mole. Notice how much larger it is than the freckle on Lucia. And then you have all of the other moles and freckles on Lucia's face that just aren't present on the other woman. And yes, you could cover these up with makeup, which is what everyone wants you to believe when they say that this is Lucia in disguise to case a place. But even if Lucia covered up every single freckle and mole on her face and then supposedly placed new ones in new spots, that doesn't account for what I think is the smoking gun here: Lucia's freckles on her stomach. Now, there are two distinct freckles here that are diagonal from one another, and this just isn't present on the other woman. Now, covering up freckles on your face is one thing, that would be pretty identifiable. But to do the same for your stomach? That seems a bit overkill to me. It's likely that Lucia has dozens of photos of her face available for police to look at, but could you say the same for her stomach? Seems incredibly unlikely to me. And on top of those freckles being missing, there are also just a bunch of new ones that aren't present on Lucia. And not only on her stomach, but on her arms and near her neck. Granted, we don't have the best frames to get a close look at Lucia's arms and neck, but these seem pretty visible to me. So what's more likely, this woman not being Lucia, or Lucia rearranging her freckles and moles to case a place? I would say it's the first option. So that's everything that I could piece together that pretty much confirms for me that this is not Lucia. Now, who this woman really is, we don't know. We'll have to wait and find out when the game comes out. But I think it's just some random NPC that they threw in the trailer.